Hey, 10-minute daily reality check. I promised Arriane Alexander coming back today in the house or maybe in the car or maybe somewhere else. It's always going to be my secret where I record this. You know, it's funny. Sometimes I go out on a date and I bring my microphone and I think to myself, just in case she wants to be on the podcast. You never know, right? So anyway, we're sitting somewhere right now, and if you can guess the secret location, I will give you 15 free minutes of coaching. Will you do the same?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay, so we're sitting here and we're staring at airplanes rising above the sky. So where are we right now, and where in LA can you see airplanes rise above the sky? Yet we can't see we can't really feel the airplane, just to give you an idea. We can hear the airplane and we can see it, and it's on an angle heading towards some of the most beautiful islands in the world. That gives you an idea if it's west or east. If you can get it, the first person to do that, to email me back at david@davidwygant.com, you will get a free 15-minute coaching call with myself and Arriane over here. So today we're going to talk about Mr. Oxytocin's wild ride. I promised you sex. I'm going to deliver sex right now. All right, maybe you should describe who Mr. Oxytocin is, because I like Mrs. Oxytocin, right? Or Miss Oxytocin, because I am addicted to it as well. But give the listeners a chance of what Mr. Oxytocin's wild ride does to your brain.
Okay, Mr. Oxytocin's wild ride is when you go on a date and you have that feeling and you start getting so excited about who this person is and how he could fit into your life and what you think is next. And then you imagine him kissing you, and then he does kiss you, and then the oxytocin starts flooding your body, and then maybe he touches you and hugs you, and maybe you have sex, maybe you don't. It doesn't really even matter, because by this time you're hooked. Your oxytocin has fully flooded your body. You are basically out of your mind into your neurotic head, because the pleasure hormones have taken over and you can't control it.
That's interesting. Okay, so that goes through your brain, right? You're sitting opposite a great-looking guy, somebody you're attracted to, and immediately Mr. Oxytocin starts taking you on that ride. And it's interesting because I remember I went out. I'm a delayed oxytocin guy. I like my rides at Oxytocin Land to last a long time. So I like to call myself, there's California Adventure, there's Disneyland, and there's Oxytocin Adventure. So I learned something at a very, very young age, that when I go out with somebody, I'm a little touchy-feely, just a little bit, I don't kiss at all for maybe 5 or 6 hours. I like to just build it and build it and build it. I'll actually sit there on the sofa opposite them with my hand on their thigh, barely moving it for 4 or 5 hours, just because I know it's going to drive them nuts. And then finally, they'll start inching up against me and nuzzling against me like a little kitten. And finally, I'll give them a kiss. And it's amazing. I can literally feel the oxytocin tongue just go crazy. I'm like, oh my God, that's been bursting. Women are amazing. I mean, they're amazing to be around. And I've always told men all the time, be patient and delay, because their oxytocin is building. Don't give them what they want quickly. Give them what they want over a longer period of time, and hold out. If you can hold out on the kiss and hold out on the touching, it's like your oxytocin's already gone through, and I think you've given them a good sneak peek.
Oh my God. If a man does that, you are literally, the woman is putty in your hands, P.S. Because we're basically, as a woman, if I'm at a stoplight and I look over at the guy in the next car and lock eyes, we're in relationship. Like, my oxytocin's already running. That's how quickly women bond. Yes, we bond basically immediately. Those hormones start kicking in immediately. So when we're on a date, the oxytocin is basically already starting to run, because the pleasure hormones are already kicking in. And then if you do the touch, if you do the looks, if you do the snuggling, and then you do the kissing and whatever else, we literally can't help it. It's like all of our survival mechanisms kick in, because the oxytocin is like, we have to procreate to survive. And so this is all happening beneath the surface. And this is why one reason why women get so neurotic in dating and start changing themselves and trying to get the guy to like them, or manipulating, or whatever it is, because we are literally out of our heads. The oxytocin has taken over and it's off to the races. It's the wild ride, and we don't even know it's happening. And we can't figure out why we're so crazy when the guy doesn't text back, and why we're so crazy when he doesn't call when he say he's going to. But it's because we're literally in survival mechanism of like cave woman, whose oxytocin kicks in because she has to procreate to survive. And we don't even know it's happening within us.
Holy shit, because it's interesting, because I can feel it. Because I also go on the oxytocin wild ride too. The minute I kiss somebody and I get that, that dizzy kiss, I'm done. I remember one time I went out with somebody in the valley and we made out, right? And I literally drove 90 miles an hour home. Didn't realize I made it home in 19 minutes. Had no concept how I got home. Had no concept why I drove so fast. I felt like my car and I were literally having sex on the 405 and the 101. And it was unreal. I got home, I was still feeling it. I could still smell her. And that's another thing too, is that if I smell a woman, and I've always been very primal. The minute I smell a woman on a date, my oxytocin will kick in. You know, I'll be like, oh God, I'm intoxicated. Because women's odors, women's smells, women's scents, they intoxicate me. It's almost like primal caveman kicks in. And it's funny. It's like and every woman, you know, when you go down on a woman, when you kiss a woman like that, it's like, if they smell, there's a certain smell that you need to smell, it becomes fucking like an addict, like I'm shaking for my drug. So, but it doesn't happen to me right away. It has to happen by her literally wafting towards me. Question, which I think would be interesting: does the oxytocin wild ride start before you go out on the date, when you get dressed, when you're picking out the outfit? Is there like pre-oxytocin or foreplay of oxytocin? Is there something that maybe triggers off? Is there a story of it that comes up? Because that would be something that I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing or maybe confessing to.
Yeah, it definitely, because basically the pleasure hormones kick in whenever they kick in. The dopamine, the oxytocin, whatever it is, they just kick in whenever. It doesn't have to be a kiss or a touch. It's because we're creating it anyway. So yeah, it can happen pre-date. It can happen, during the first phone calls. Because you know how, like, if you have a phone call with someone you've never talked to before, and then you're all turned on, and then you're like masturbating, and you're like, so you're already creating your own oxytocin for this person. And one thing that's fascinating about it too is why it's such a wild ride is I read something that, and I can't quote this exactly, but basically for a woman, because once we orgasm, we're done. Like the oxytocin is fully taken over. Okay. So the more times we have sex with someone, the more we're bonding with them through all of these chemicals and hormones. And then it's harder to unattach because the oxytocin literally stays in the body for like, I think it's 7 or 8 days after an orgasm, after sex. So we're literally attached without our knowing it. This hormone in our body, this chemical, is making us attached for a week after we sleep with someone and have orgasm. So this is why women are run by this hormone that we don't even know about.
So in my Darth Vader evil days, okay, there was something that I lived by, and I'm going to confess it right now for all of you. I would get on the phone and I'd get gruff, right? And I'd talk like this. And, I've always had the radio voice, and I'd, start talking. And I would always call women after 10 o'clock. I called it pre-masturbation hour. And it would be ridiculous. Like I would call them up on the phone and we'd start talking and we get into a deep conversation because I'm not a small talk person at all. And then I'd be like, well, let's tuck each other into bed. And what are you wearing right now? And I knew exactly what I was doing. I was getting them to release their own oxytocin because I knew that if I can get her and if I can get her to masturbate thinking about me before we've even met, then we're in a relationship. We're locked, okay? She is way the fuck giving herself to me. And it was something that I lived by during the evil days, right? Darth Vader sex days. And now I still know it because I know it's like women. I always tell men all the time, women are the most erotic beings in the entire world. If you text them the right way, speak to them the right way, call them on the phone before they go to bed, they're going to be doing something. There's going to be a little bit of masturbation going on, and they're going to be thinking about you because you triggered it. And if we can trigger that in each other, and it's important also for women to trigger that in a man. If a man knows that a woman is masturbating about him where it's implied, the man will give himself pleasure and release his own oxytocin. The two of you are done at that point. But that is all part of the romance that I think is so beautiful. So admitting that you've masturbated thinking about somebody, to me, is still probably hotter then I think to me, when a woman says, God, I had a masturbation fantasy about you the other night, or before we slept together, I masturbated like 10 times thinking about you, that to me is hotter than I really want to fuck you. Because I know what she's doing. She is bringing her self-love to herself. She's pleasuring herself. And I'm in that beautiful, loving moment with her. And it's a much deeper thing. It's like she's taking care of herself, but she's doing it with me. I'm her man in this story. And fuck, I want to be this man in her story.
I love that. Well, you were naughty in Darth Vader years of
No, Darth David.
Darth
Darth
David.
David was really fucking naughty, and he didn't listen to Yoda at all. You know, he just plowed along. And I did breathe like Darth Vader at times. What are you doing right now, honey?
But what I think is cool about this conversation is that the oxytocin is part of the fun, and it is part of the high, and it is what we all engage in when we're in dating, when we're in relationship, and it's just part of the process. And I think as a woman, it's just knowing that being aware that this is part of the process. And yes, I might go out of my head sometimes, and for men to know that too. Like when you start engaging with a woman in this way, and you're creating oxytocin, and she is too. There's going to be a response in a woman that she is maybe possibly going to go a little neurotic in the way that she's, like that's when men go, well, women change. She wasn't that way. It's because she doesn't know what to do because she's out of her head because she has oxytocin running through her 24/7.
Okay, so here's today's reality, and we're going to end it at this, okay? Today's reality is the quicker you masturbate thinking about your partner, the better the relationship's going to be, and the more you're going to get through all the bullshit. So the bottom line is, okay, if you're talking to somebody on the phone and it's late at night and the person turned you on, admit it. Fucking admit it. That's reality. Say, you know what? I'm really turned on. And you know what? Maybe the next morning, send them a text and go, I had a dream about you last night before I went to sleep. That's enough. If you're too afraid to say that you masturbated about the person, you can use the term dream about it. For those of you that are more sexually advanced, you can say, you know what? We got off the phone last night. I was so turned on. I had to make myself come. There. That's hot. That's sexy. Get into your sexuality. Let oxytocin go on a wild ride. And listen, Darth David had a lot of fucking fun during those days. I was enjoying those days. Now, I really enjoyed the connection time. So where can they get in touch with you?
ArianeAlexander.com. ARRIANE Alexander.com. And on all the social media channels at Arriane Alexander.
ArianeAlexander.com. 10-minute daily reality check is here to stay. Do me a favor, okay? Masturbate, pass it on, and please, if I get to 1 million downloads by my birthday, I will definitely masturbate looking at that thing going, 1 million downloads, because that still does kind of turn me on in other ways too, because I still am a type A man that likes to conquer the world, and conquering the world still gives me a massive hard-on. Anyway, enjoy it. I will talk to you all soon, meaning tomorrow. Pass it along. 10-minute daily reality check. Have a masturbation fantasy on us.